dark matter. It was sitting in the drying rack the way it had been sitting in the drying rack every morning of Ellie's childhood. Her mother washed the cup immediately after breakfast, set it to dry. It was dry by lunch and back in the cupboard. This was the rhythm of her mother's mornings for 60 years. Ellie picked it up to put it in the box for the charity shop. She heard her mother say, "I love you, Ellie. Be good." Not a memory, not the internal echo of a familiar voice, a sound, external, present, coming from the cup. The last sound the cup had absorbed, the last thing her mother had said before she set the cup in the drying rack and went to sit in her chair and did not get up again. Ellie set the cup down very carefully. She stood in her mother's kitchen for a long time. She picked up a dish towel. She heard her mother singing, an old song, something Ellie did not know the name of, the specific wordless humming of someone doing ordinary tasks. She set the dish towel down. She stood in the kitchen with her hands at her sides, and she understood what had happened, and she did not know what to do with the understanding. She left the kitchen. She drove home. She did not touch anything in her car except the steering wheel and the gear shift, and she understood in the drive home that this was going to be a problem. Story 7. The Census Taker. He arrived on a Thursday in October, and the first person he spoke to was May Whitfield at the end of the road. May was 73 and had lived in Harrow's End her whole life and was not easily unsettled. She had seen the usual parade of people who came to small remote communities with clipboards and purposes, insurance assessors, local government surveyors, the occasional journalist who had read something about the area and wanted to write a piece. She had dealt with all of them with the specific, efficient directness of a woman who had no patience for being condescended to, and made this clear from the opening exchange. The census taker was different. He was thin and pale in the way of someone who spent a great deal of time indoors, and he wore a coat that was too warm for October and too old for anything, a coat that had been a good coat once and had continued being worn past the point where good coats usually stopped being worn. He carried a leather case and a clipboard, and he smiled in the way that people smile when they have learned that smiling is what is expected but have not entirely understood why. He introduced himself as Mr. Fell. He said he was conducting a census of the community, standard procedure, he said, periodic assessments of the population, for the records. May asked, which records? He said, the permanent ones. She asked who he worked for. He said he had always worked for the same office. She asked, what office? He said, the one that keeps track. May looked at him. She said, what do you need to know? He opened the leather case. He took out a ledger, not a modern document, an actual ledger, the kind with the marbled cover and the yellowed pages, the kind that belonged in a historical archive. He opened it. He found her name. Whitfield, May Elizabeth, born 1951, resided at this address since 1951. Previous generations: Whitfield, Thomas. Whitfield, Agnes, nee Barrow. He looked up from the ledger. Your father was Thomas, he said. Yes, she said. He died in 1987, cardiac event. He was in the East Field. Yes, she said. Your mother, Agnes, died in 1993. She had been unwell for some time. Yes, she said. What does any of that? He said, I need to confirm the count. The current count. How many are at this address? Just me, she said. He wrote something in the ledger. And the others, he said, the ones who were here before you. She looked at him. My parents are dead, she said. Yes, he said. I need to confirm the full count, current residents and previous. He looked at the ledger. Your parents, your mother's parents, the Barrows, your father's parents, the Whitfields, their parents before them. He ran his finger down a column. This address has been continuously occupied by your family since 1887. I need the full count. May looked at the ledger. She looked at the column his finger was running down. She could see names, dates, details she could not read at this distance, but that appeared to be very specific and very complete. "How do you know all of that?" she said. "We keep records," he said. "We have always kept records." He smiled. "We are very thorough." May looked at him. "What happens when you have the count?" she asked. He looked at her. He did not answer immediately. He looked at her with those pale indoor eyes, and he held the smile in place, and he said, "We verify the total against the expected number." He paused. "Sometimes the numbers don't match. Sometimes there are more than we expect." He paused again. "Sometimes there are fewer." May looked at him. "And if there are fewer," she said. He wrote something in the ledger. "We adjust," he said. He moved on to the next house. May watched him go. She went inside. She called her neighbor, Roy, who was 58 and practical, and she told him about the census taker. Roy said, "What did he look like?" She described him. Roy was quiet for a moment. He said, "My grandfather mentioned someone like that. Came through in 1962. Coat that was too old. A ledger." May said, "What happened in 1962? Roy said 3 people died that winter, more than the winters before. His grandfather had always thought it was connected. May looked out her window. She could see Mr. Fell on the road, moving from house to house, his leather case, his clipboard, his ledger. She thought about the permanent records. She thought about the count not matching. She thought about the adjusting. She reached for the phone. She called every house in Harrow's End that she had a number for. She told them all the same thing. Don't tell him anything. Don't confirm the count. She watched Mr. Fell work his way down the road. He came to Roy's house. Roy did not answer the door. Mr. Fell stood at Roy's door for a very long time. Then he opened the ledger. He wrote something. He moved on. He reached the last house at dusk. He stood outside the last house, and he looked at his ledger, and he wrote something, and he closed the ledger. He looked down the road at May's house. She was watching from the window. He raised a hand, not a wave, something else. The gesture of someone who has concluded a transaction. He walked away. He walked down the road and around the bend, and he was gone. That winter, 3 people died in Harrow's End, the same 3 who had not answered their doors. May thought about this. She thought about it for years. She thought about the count and the adjustment. She thought about what it meant that opening your door and confirming you were there, confirming your existence to the man with the ledger, had protected the people who had done it. She thought about what they had been protected from. She thought about the permanent records, the ones that kept track. She thought about 1887 and the continuous occupation and the full count, including the previous residents. She thought about what office kept those kinds of records. She thought about Mr. Fell saying he had always worked for the same office. Always. She thought about the coat that had been a good coat once. She thought about how long once might have been. Next time on Dark Matter. His reflection raised its hand. He stood in the bathroom for a long time. He tried it again. Same result. He turned the bathroom light on and off. He cleaned the mirror. He checked the medicine cabinet behind it to see if there was something behind the glass. He went to bed. He told himself he was tired. He noticed it again the next morning.
He was shaving, and he moved the razor up along his jaw, and he watched his reflection move the razor 3 seconds later. He watched it shave a jaw that had already been shaved. He watched it repeat what he had done 3 seconds behind, with the specific fidelity of a perfect recording.
Please like and subscribe.